Alright, so now we are recording. So let's start testing all these routes. Hopefully register will work now. If we click register, I'm going to try this, and we're going to find out what happens. Nothing. API users register. Alright, good. So now we get a normal error. That's cool. I'm okay with that. It's something we can debug. So it looks like user controller 22. It was on user controller 22. User.password equals hash. Okay, somewhere in here it's breaking. It's breaking right here. What if I comment that for a second? Does that work? Let's try this. Now what do we get? Can't read property save of null. So the user is null. This user doesn't exist. But why? We never created a user. This is for register. If user, else if not user, then we will create the user. Alright, so we never had a let user equal new user request.body. So I'll bring this back now. I think that was the problem. Let's see, let's go ahead and hit register again. We get stuff, yay. Okay, so register works. We get a hash string as our password, and we have an empty listings array. That's fantastic. Good. So something good happened. We're gonna go ahead and test login. So we should actually be in session right now, but we're gonna log in anyways to make sure it works. So let's test this route here. All right. So what do we need to pass login? Just email and password, I think. Alright, so we'll just get rid of some of this. Yeah, so we can just get rid of these two and have email and password. So let's see if our bcrypt is actually working. So we're going to post to login. See what happens. Looks like it worked. We got a whole user back. So what if I do test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Let's click send. Invalid credentials. Cool. Okay. So that actually worked first try. That's kind of nice. Alright, so register and login work. That's great. What about logout? Let's see what that does. It's not going to actually give us anything back, I don't think. But let's do a post. Or did we make it a get? I think we made it a get. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to just log out. That should say, yeah, logged out successfully. Sweet. Logout is good. And then find a user by their ID. Alright, so what we're going to do is re-log in. I'm going to actually leave two tabs open up here because one's going to be for checking session from time to time, and then this one will be just a different URL. Just so I don't have to retype this in again. So I'm going to make this login again and change this back over here to a post and body. So we'll log in with Bob. Alright, now we are logged in. Yeah, so we're logged in with this guy. Should be in session. Now if I come over here, I actually just wanted to grab our ID. So let's see if find by ID works. So we should get this whole user again, if this works properly. So let's do this. On a different tab, I'm going to do localhost 8000 and then this route. API/user/ and then the ID. Oh my goodness. It's over. Yeah, control C. That'll do it. Nope. That's not working. Give me this. Please work. Yes, okay. So let's make a GET request here and see if we get the whole user. We do. So we can find people by their IDs and get all of their listings. Eventually this will populate. This listings array, because we did populate and exec, that'll give us all the listings, not just their IDs. It'll give us all the stuff we need. Hopefully. So that one works. What about creating a listing? So you have to be logged in to create a listing. We're actually logged in right now because we're in session. Right? So we can go to API/listings. We'll make this a post. Alright, so it thinks we're logged in. So we're going to go to body and get rid of this. Oops, I'm in the wrong spot, aren't I? JSON. Okay, so we're going to pass this. I forgot what makes up a listing. So we're going to look at the models. Listing. All this stuff. Title, price, description, location, image. Honestly, I'm going to just copy that. And we'll make these just strings. Alright, we're getting there. Hopefully this will create a listing. Let's just find some random thing that we want to sell on the internet and... Oh, commas? I did, thank you. Comma and comma. Bad string. Why is that there? Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot you need double quotes around everything. It's really annoying. Alright, double quotes around the keys and the values, and then it should not be a red X anymore over there. Cool, so let's just go find a picture of something on the internet. Preferably a bike. Let's find a bike. BMX bike. Alright, let's grab this green one, and I'm going to grab the image address, because Google doesn't let you click stuff anymore. Make sure that works. It does. Alright, so we're going to store this massive string into the image here. That's just going to store where it exists. So we're just going to use an href and point it to this. So let's just call this BMX bike. Its description is it's green. Price can be $500, and it's in Dallas, Texas, for some reason. All right, so we're going to post this and see what happens. So hopefully we get back an object down here. You must be logged in to create a listing. That's fine. I thought we were. But let's try this. That's why I left this one open. So this one will be for logging in. So hit send. It gives us ourselves back. Now let's try this. Alright, so it actually let us do something, but we broke something. Yeah, so it says listing controller 10, and I broke something. Let's find out what we broke. Listing does not exist on line 10. Probably. Listing equals new listing. Oh yeah, we might want to import our listing model because that's going to be something that's pretty important. Alright, so we'll say require mongoose and then dot model. Grab listing. And we're probably using user, so let's just grab it. I'll just do this. There we go. Cool, so we have, in case we used user somewhere, we did, yeah. So now we have both those models. So let's try it one last time. Testing routes. I'm going to just re-log in because it'll probably get mad if we don't. So we're logged in and we're going to try to repost this data here. Hopefully this will do something. There we go. We have an object. Cool. And look at this. We have a foreign key assigned. Now, here's the cool part. Let's grab this person's ID. I guess not. Yes. Let's grab this ID and go to localhost 8000/API/users/that person, and then hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, let's see what the server says. Not if you're just browsing a user, I don't think. Yeah, you shouldn't have to. Hold on, it did something weird. In fact, I'm going to close this one so we can see this better, because now I can see. Alright, so what was that error? Let's try it again. Well, it works now. I don't know what happened, but we're good. So look at this. Listings array. It has all that junk about that bike we just created. So it's the whole object, right, which we need when we go to find this one person. Right, it gives us everything, which is why we used populate and exec, which is extremely important because that's why we have all this data here. Right, so if you look at that listings array, it's not just this, right? That would be useless to us. Right, so we got all this junk about that really bad green bike. Right, so we have also all the user info. So there's all of this stuff. Now we have all of it. So it works. It makes me happy. Sweet, so let's look at routes. API/listings, let's just go there and see what happens. Alright, so we should be able to get the same thing if we go to API/listings, except it's going to populate each listings user too. So let's do this. Make a get. There we go. Oh god, there's a lot of stuff I have in here. So this is some old stuff from the last cohort, so this will be interesting to look at. But let's look at mainly the one, Yev's house.
So I think this is the database from the last marketplace?
Yeah, the last one that I made, yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is using Katie O'Shea, that's so hilarious. Alright, so we have a price in here. So this is each listing, and then you can see each user, right? And then what's funny is it populates each user's listings again, even though we're already in listings. So it's kind of funny. So if we did a populate again on this, that would be really bad, because then we would just infinitely like keep populating stuff, right? So at least now we have all listings and the whole entire user for every listing that exists, as you can see here too, right? So in this random listing over here, we have user and all of their listings. This person has a ton, whatever all that is, right? So that works. Yeah. All right, API/listings works. Let's do a get for one listing and see if that works. Let's grab the one that we just created, this over here. API listings ID. Go here, give us that one. We got null, that's great. Why did that happen? Why did we get a null?
Did we get the right ID?
API listings ID as a get runs this. I don't know, sometimes you just need a good restart and then it'll work.
Sure. Are you searching by the bike ID or the user ID?
Oh, it might be the user ID. Yeah, I think we're querying for a user ID instead. Alright, so let's just pick a random one. Let's make sure I didn't do that wrong. Yeah, I definitely grabbed the user ID, which is, it should have returned null. Alright, so let's do it the right way. So here's the one that we just created, I think. Yeah. Alright, so here's one listing, right? It gave us one listing and the user that created this listing as an object. Right, so this is find one. So finding one listing, here's its ID and all that stuff, and the user. So somehow all of these are working, which is great. I didn't think it was going to work right away. Usually it doesn't, but that's cool. We're not going to worry about update right now. I don't care if that breaks. We can check that later. And delete is fine. That'll probably work. So for the most part, let's get started with Angular. We can just test those other two later. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of Postman, and now we can create Angular. Yeah, we might as well. Yeah, all that will take is this. Git add, git commit. Oh wait, this is on a different branch now. That's fine. Fixed things.
Fix things.
Yeah, so git commit. Oh god, you know what I forgot to do is this. Remove node modules. Git push. Alright, so I made a branch for this, so hopefully it won't mess with the one with that won't have Angular.
Why'd you remove the node modules?
Because I don't want it to take forever to upload.
Yeah, there's 2,000 files in there. And Angular has 30,000 files.
It's like 300 MB.
Yeah. Alright, so now we have to re-npm install to launch the server. So it should be good.
Windows can handle that.
Alright, so let's rerun NodeMod and then start working with Angular, our favorite front-end framework. Alright, so there's Mongo's here, backend will be here, and I guess we could just have like Angular over there. It'd be nice if I could just close this terminal and just have only Angular and only NodeMod. I mean, or Node.js. Yeah, let's just do one of those. That works. Alright, so this will be backend, or sorry, Angular right here. So let's go into client, and this is where we're going to create our Angular project right now. So ng new, let's call this public. Yeah. So that'll do all of that stuff. And then while that's doing that, because it takes forever, we're going to look over here and make sure we're doing that app.all thing in our routes, wherever that is. I forget what it looks like. It's like app.all, and then it says go forward all of our Angular stuff here.
Request, response, next.
That's right.
And then response.send file.
Thank you.
App.resolve. And then link to the
Okay.
Client disk.
Now what I need up here then is let path equal require. Path, so we need path up here. That's cool.
Wouldn't you need client disk index HTML?
Yeah,
So what is it?
Well, you do public, client public disk public index.
So in our case, that's going to be client public and then dist. Client public
Yeah.
dist index.html. Is it a dot forward slash or dot forward slash?
No, it's a dot slash.
Okay, I thought so.
And there's also another public folder before index.
Really?
Yeah.
It's super weird. There shouldn't be.
I thought it was just. Open this folder.
Well, we will in a sec. So let's do that. Let's do ng build watch.
For mine, it puts the public folder inside of it.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll also get that error that I just cleared. You'll get this error. You might not be depending on Angular Core if you're not in your actual app. So you have to be inside of the folder. I was just in client, but I wasn't in public. So now that I'm in our folder, we can do ng build watch. Alright, so running Angular for the first time, we're going to do that here, and then just make sure that we can get to the home page, and then we'll start messing with Angular. I think we are recording. Yeah, we're like 16 minutes in. Yeah. Alright, so this looks like it's fine. It's running. Let's go ahead and actually double check that and see if it built us dist folder. I'm going to have to restart Sublime. Alright, so I guess we are going to need one of these new terminals. Sublime. Alright, so now public dist is here. I don't have, I don't have it public inside of dist. Mine just goes straight to client public dist index HTML.
I had public dist and public and then I had everything inside that.
But that's the way.
Could be.
Yeah. That's also the way. I don't know if we went over that Friday that you mentioned you should do it structurally like that.
I mean, you don't have to do it anyway. Whatever works, honestly. Alright, so our routes, this should be fine now. So let's try to hit localhost 8000 and see if our Angular app shows up. Hopefully it will. So we added this, and then in our server.js, the only other thing we would need is this here. And we already have this. So this might have to be / client public dist. But we didn't have a dot there in the other app. So let's see if this works. So localhost 8000. Yes, success. Alright. Now we get to start with Angular from scratch. So we're going to open up the platform and start looking at how we can break down stuff into components. Alright, so I'm going to shrink this, go back to mean, continue coding. Bicycle marketplace. Alright. So we got to make all this stuff. There's a lot. So let's work with probably just the login registration first. I think we can do that. And it looks like we have Bicycle Marketplace all the way across all of these pages. So maybe we'll make like a header component and just throw an H1 in there and just keep that across all of our, pages.
We call it nav.
Yeah.
Navigation.
Yeah, we can call this one nav. So this one here only shows when you're logged in. So maybe we can call this like dash component or something, or login component, to show this, because this nav bar's here, and then on this next page there is the same thing. So only show that if somebody's logged in, really.
So you can't have that on every page and have a function to show.
Yeah, you could do that. You could just make sure that they're logged in order to show it, and then just have an ngF, really. Alright, so I think what we can do is to start off, let's make some components. I think I want to lay this out as like, just, this could be header component, for example. So we'll go into clients, we're going to go into public, and source. You don't have to go into source. I'm going to just do this here. ng generate component. Is this hard to see? Way over there? Okay, maybe I can just do this. There we go. Generate a component called just home. We're going to do that. We have a home component now. That'll represent just this only, pretty much, as an H1. And then what I'm planning to do is with this kind of random bike of the day thing, we'll probably make a backend route to just pick a random listing and show it to us here. And that way, when you hit this page, we'll just query the backend real quick and throw this on here. However, if you take a look at this page, we can probably just make a component out of each one of these listings, right? So we can call it bike component or listing component. And then listings component can probably carry all of those listings. And then this might be like new listing component. This might be edit listing component.
Grade listing.
Yeah, something like that. All right, so let's work with the top here. Let's work with this page and make ourselves a login and register component. All right, so let's make a login component, ng generate component. We'll just call it login. So there's that, and then we'll do ng generate component register. Make maybe one for each of those, for example. And then let's call one listings component, plural. That'll kind of house all of our listings, just like we did the other day with like the task API. Yeah, so we had tasks, plural, and then just task. So listings will be for showing just this weird background white div that holds all of these. But then we're going to do a loop through a listing component, which will be comprised of these individual boxes. So we can do like just listing now. So we'll create another one called just listing. So I like to do this first because you can figure out all the stuff you need and what you want these to kind of do. And then we'll have some ifs over here for showing whether or not this is your listing. Then we're going to need a new listing component at some point, it looks like. So we'll say new listing, for example. And then this one's kind of weird, this edit listing, because it's showing all of your own listings. Maybe we can call this like user listings or something. Or edit listings, yeah. Yeah, let's call it like update listings. Update listing. But it's weird though because I wanna make this have two things in it. I want one to be update listing, and then one we'll call it like user listings. I think I want to do that. So user listings. What did you say? Sorry. I like this, having user listings plural, which will house all of these. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Now we can just have like update listing be these inner components. Even though they're almost identical to these up here, but with a little more logic. But I'd rather just make a whole separate component to represent those because it'll be easier. Even though we're kind of repeating ourselves, just a little. Alright, but we're going to do that. ng generate component, we'll just call this one, what did we agree on? Yeah, update listing. It's going to be an update listing. It's weird. It's just weird. It'll work though. Update listing. Alright, so now we've got kind of all this stuff planned out for what we want to do with these. Alright, so now that we have that underway, let's start working with this page finally and create this login component and register component. Let's fill these in. Alright, so there's a couple things we'll need to do. I'm going to close our entire server folder because we're going to go into client now. And source, client public, and then source and app. So you can see all the junk we just made, all these components. We have like 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. So we made 8 components, and they don't do anything yet. So a good place to kind of start actually is in your app module and just get all the things you think you might need in here. So you can see it already added all of our components, these 8, or 9 actually. Alright, so the first thing I know we're going to have to do is we're going to need our HTTP client module. Right, so that's going to be for our services for later. So grab this, do this now so we don't forget. We're going to need that, which comes from Angular common HTTP. So grab that and then put it inside of imports as HTTP client module. Right, so we import it and then put it inside of imports. Then we can just do the same thing for forms because we know we're going to have to submit stuff. Right, so we also have a forms module. Let's just grab this too while we're at it, which is @angular/forms, I believe. So let's chuck this inside of here as well and get all this annoying stuff that you have to do out of the way because it's really easy to forget. And when you do, it's like you could look everywhere for where an error might be. Alright, so we've got that stuff there. And honestly, I kind of want to make like 2 services right off the bat and just be done with this file from the beginning, so we don't have to mess with dependencies and things. All right, so what I want to do is just create 2 services. Right, so we created all our components. Now let's just start with creating our services. They can be blank. Yeah, so let's do that. So we're going to say create us a service, and then we know we're going to be able to create users, and we're going to be able to create listings. So I like making separate services for each of my back-end models on my front end. You can do whatever you want. You can make one service have a million functions in it, but I like to organize mine into, per model, pretty much. So this one will be just called generate service model. That's what I plan to do, and this will be just listing. So we've got a listing service and a user service. User service is just going to have ways to log in and register. Listing service is going to be full CRUD for just listing stuff. All right, so that's kind of how I wanted to lay this out. And all of that should go, let's see where it created it. So here's the user service it just created for us, and listing service. And these spec files are obnoxious, so I'm going to delete them. All right, so now we can leave these services can stay. I just wanted them imported. Now that they're imported, or they exist, let's go into the app module TS again and just import those 2, put them in providers, and then we're done with this file. All right, so now we can just import both of these. All the services we know we'll need. So let's import user service. Gotta spell it right. There we go.
Yeah, I know, but if you have VS Code, there's like Angular 6 snippets. So if you just go down to providers and type in user service, it'll automatically generate an import.
That's nice. That is really handy. Yeah, because typing this out is really annoying. Alright, so we've got these 2 services here that we just created and we just imported in our app. So now these both have to go inside of providers. Right, so we're going to shove those in there. User service can go down here. So can listing service. Listing service. All right, so this file is like done. We've got all of these imports done and our providers done. So we don't really need this file anymore. And for components, it shoves these in here by itself.
Wait, go down. Shouldn't you with the routing?
Oh, routing. Yep. Oh boy. That's fine. We'll figure it out later.
But there's that command that you can do, and it'll. Yeah.
Yeah, we forgot routing. That's terrific. That's okay. We'll make it from scratch.
Well, I was gonna say you can install it with the. I forget the command.
Yeah, I forget the command line too.
I sent it on Slack, so it actually worked for us.
Hey Jose, why didn't you tell us sooner, man? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, I just picked up on it.
I'm joking. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it might be a good idea to just do all of the service methods too, and just get those out of the way. Should we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Honestly, it might. Let's actually start with services. I've never done that. That'd be interesting, and just do all of the service logic because they're going to be all the same functions that we've been doing.
Positive, because I got it right now.
What? Oh, you have the command?
Yeah.
Oh, we can do that in a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, just leave that page up for later. All right. So what we'll do now is we're going to import in each of our services. We know we need HTTP client, right? So now we can just import that. Angular common HTTP. Right. So now we need to dependency inject that thing that we need. So we'll say private HTTP : not user service. Where'd that come from? All right, so we've got that dependency injected. We don't need to do anything else in this constructor. All right, so now let's start creating the CRUD methods, the methods we know we'll need to do to create users. So all we really need is login, register, and I believe on our back end we have one more. Login, register, logout, and a way to find one user. All right, so we're going to do all of that. So we can have register here. This is in our service, login. And I have a really short-term memory. What was that? Find by ID. So we can find people by their IDs. And lastly, just logout. Okay. So we'll also have a logout method. All right, so each of these, when we register or create a user, we're taking in a user from some component that sent it to us, some JSON object. So we'll just put in here user, right? And then the second argument, it's going to be a callback to say what to do with it once we got them back. All right, so now it's going to be the same for login. We're going to take in probably a user, but it's not going to be a new user. It's just going to be their email and password. All right, so when we register, there's a couple ways we could do this. All right, so when we register, why don't we do this? We'll say http.post. Right, we're going to go to /API/users register because I think that's what we called it. Here's our backend. Yeah, so that'll work. So we'll go here and we're going to supply it that user. Then we have to subscribe. So almost every one of the services you create, they're probably all going to have the same functions. Mostly, they all just post or get or delete. Once we subscribe to it, we're going to get probably some data back, and we'll give that data to the callback. Right, so there's that. Register is done, and it's going to be the same for login. So it's also a post. API users login. Right, and we supply it with the person who's logging in. Right, so this is going straight to our backend. Subscribe, and it's the same thing. Right, so when you log out, we don't really need to subscribe or get any data back, but it should tell us, I guess this could also be, we don't need a user here, but we will take a callback. So we want to know when you log out, what should happen. Right, so we don't need to really do anything with that. This can be a get, though. We made that a get on our backend. Right, yeah, so that's a get right there. For logging out, so we'll go API users logout. And we're not gonna, we can subscribe to this right here, but it's not gonna give us really, it's gonna give us data, but we just made it say, hey, you logged out successfully, which is fine. So we can just honestly do the same thing, like this. And then if we're finding one person, we know we're probably gonna supply this with a user to find the whole person. I think this way will work pretty well. We could just have ID here. It's probably gonna be ID, so let's just do that. All right, so we're looking for someone by their ID, so it's going to be the same thing. Do a get API users / API users ID. Yeah, so / and then a plus ID. So look for them by their ID on our backend, and when you're done with that, we will tell it to subscribe. And it's literally the same thing for all of these. So you can see like all of these are the same exact thing, except one's a post, and two are gets. So it's always kind of the same thing. That's why I wanted to do these first, because they're super easy. All right, so callback and then data. All right, so we're done with everything that has to do with a user in Angular already.
So we're going to tell it what user is, or what user instance is.
For which one?
Like at the top, within the export class service, subject to private user equals.
Oh, that's in the components. That'll be in our components, yeah. So in your service, you just define what should happen when you send it
If
data.
we're exporting what that would be.
Right,
to
exactly.
that component, then we have to tell it what it is, or
Right.
how it's defined.
Yeah, exactly. So in the component, you'll actually use this service and say, hey, I need you to register. When you register, you're going to give me a user back. So in the component, that's where you'll define like private user, and then you'll call like a register method, which will give you back that data, and you'll probably assign that user to the data
Okay.
in the component. Yeah. So user service, we're actually done with. We did all of those routes here. So we made one for each one of these, each one of these four. So then we're done with that. So let's create now in our listening service the same exact stuff. All right, so now it's the same process. So you can just do an import HTTP client from Angular HTTP common. All right, and then nope, common HTTP. It was one way or the other. And then this is private HTTP client. So it's the exact same steps. In fact, I could have just copied probably all of those methods we just created and then just changed them slightly. And I want this backend routes open again. I don't know why I closed it. All right, so now we're going to create for every one of these a function in our service, right? So this is straight from our backend. So if we want to create a listing, let's create a function called create. You don't have to make your front end routes like methods the same as the back end routes, but that's kind of what just happened. It just turns out to work that way. So if we're creating a listing, someone's sending us a listing, and then also we'll tell them what to do. They'll tell us what to do with that listing once it's saved, right? So now it's the same thing. HTTP post this listing to here. Yep, exactly. And we need to supply it with the thing someone sent us, the listing, right? And it's literally the same as all of the rest of these. So now I'll give you back that data about that listing, right? So create is done. That's all we need there. So all you see all you're doing is just mapping the stuff that you have in your back end to your front end, really, right? So now we're going to work with our all method for all listings. So why don't we just call this one all, even in our service? We're not sending it data, but we are getting data, so we're going to just tell the person what to do with it, right? So now this is the same as HTTP post. Again, it's the same exact route, but we don't need to supply it with anything. We're just getting data. Subscribe data. Right, so we'll create and find all are done. Right, so we did these two. These two are done. Now we have 3 left. So we're going to do find by ID, update, and destroy. So I'll just put find by ID, update. I'm going to just stub these in, and then destroy. Right, so those 3 are all the remaining ones that we need. So if we're finding something by its ID, we're probably going to be finding an ID. So let's put ID there and then a callback. And if we're updating a listing, this will probably take a listing and a callback. So you can see it's always kind of the same stuff, really. And if we're destroying a listing, we'll probably pass it an entire listing, or maybe an ID, and then a callback.
Well, you mentioned yesterday that you can pass the ID.
Yeah.
And from that listing, or rather just a listing, and from that listing you can pull the ID.
Yeah.
So listing that ID on the command, so you can pass the listing there.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll pull out the ID. Right. Exactly. Yeah, I like doing it that way better, actually. All right, so if you're finding a listing by ID, actually these can all just be listing instead of just ID, because we're assuming that once you've clicked on, if we're calling this function find by ID, you probably already have all the data about that listing, and we're just going to send the whole thing, because we're assuming you're on this page right here, clicking update, and we already have the whole object. So we're just going to give you that in the service and just rip out its ID here. So at this point, it's the same thing. We'll just do find by ID, make this a get, listings slash plus listing, like basically like you just said, dot underscore ID. Yeah, so we'll find it by its ID and subscribe. And you kind of get the idea at this point. It's the same for almost all of these, except for a keyword in the route name. Plus listing dot underscore ID dot subscribe. Alright, so I broke something somewhere. Where is it? The new data about that listing. That's what it was. Alright, so we've got almost all of these done, and then we can actually see stuff happen once we start making our components look like something. But it's nice to have all of this logic finished, and then you just get to work on front end only, you know? So destroy, let's do this last one. This HTTP, isn't this a delete?
Yes.
This one is a delete, yeah. Alright, so subscribe, and we're going to be sending this to API listings ID. Alright, so we're deleting something by, not by /:ID, plus listing, yeah, yep, dot underscore ID, subscribe, do the same exact thing, there. We're done with both services. That wasn't that bad. That was like 15 minutes or so. So it might be a good idea to do all of your service stuff first if you know that all of your backend routes are good and perfect, and you just want to like map all this stuff out. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's your flow. You just kind of have to figure out what works for you. So we're done with backend. I'm going to close that file, and all of our services are pretty much done. So now we can just call functions wherever we need to. All right, so services are finished. And then if we need any of those services in any of these components, we can just use them. All right, so now let's go back to this page. Oops. Now we can finally, I think we can finally start making some changes in our HTML. I think we said we were going to do that like probably 30 minutes ago, but that's okay. Services first was not a bad option. All right, so let's do this home component. All right, inside of here, we're going to literally just put an H1 in here. And that's all it's going to do. Just make home component in here. That's going to be for this bicycle marketplace. It's just going to say bicycle marketplace all the way across the top. Why did I put that there? Bicycle marketplace. That's what we want. All right, so in our home component, this is going to load no matter where you are. Right, so what we're going to do is go to your app component HTML, get rid of all the stuff, the hello world kind of stuff that it shows us. Make sure that that is gone when I refresh. Yep, so that's all gone. Then we're going to load our home component here. So it should be app home. All right, so this will forever be at the top of the page. So we could have just put an H1 there, honestly.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you could just put an H1 there. It doesn't. We kind of wasted that, but that's okay.
And it'll stick everywhere.
All right, so we have a basic H1. That's great. We made an H1. All right, we can make H1s. All right, now, what do we want to do next? We're going to do, yeah, we can put the router outlet there. But first, yeah, we might want to start messing with routing. Yeah, let's actually get that file. We should do that. Do you by any chance have that command?
Yes, it is.
ng generate script or something weird.
No. ng generate module.
It's so weird. Okay.
App dash routing dash that flat.
Dash flat?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Module equals that.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Okay, so I have this so far. Generate module app dash routing dash flat, and then what?
Okay.
What's after dash flat?
Module equals.
Oh, module equals.
App. Super.
Okay, dash module equals app. Gotcha. Okay, dash module. Super weird. Equals app. Okay. It did it. Yes, that's pretty nice. You saved us like a ton of copy and pasting. Yeah, so that's why you don't want to forget to do dash routing. It actually forgot a lot of stuff here.
Oh.
There's usually way more, but that's okay. There's like a URL patterns or something in here.
Oh, wait. There might be a command for that too. Let's see.
Okay, so in our app routing module, yeah, isn't it like URLs equals and then an array? It's something like this. Let's just look at it.
Everybody could browse it.
Yeah, you know what we should do is just do this. Go to the platform and it'll show us what it should look like. All right, so now let's go to Angular. Navigation, routing.
So flat puts it in the source file instead of its own folder. That's what it does.
Wait a sec, why don't I just grab this? Just grab this chunk. App routing module TS, let's just paste what they have, and then get rid of all this stuff from this point onward. Right, we don't have any of these components. We don't have a beta, we don't have a gamma, we don't have that. So pretty much got rid of everything.
I wonder why they wouldn't auto-generate
I have no idea. Page not found component. So this is actually cool. These double stars, this wildcard basically says if you don't hit anything, what should we do by default? So you can take them to like your home page by default, for example, which is super useful. We might leave that. I'm gonna just comment that in case we want to do that. can just have it. In fact, you could actually make this redirect. This might be cool too. In the case that, you know, you don't hit a route on your front end that doesn't exist, then that's like, this is like a failsafe. So you can have it go to a different route on the front end, like /alpha, and then it'll do whatever that route does. All right, so in our case, what do we want to do when we hit? All right, so now I got to go back to Bicycle Marketplace now, but when we hit our route route, we probably want it to be our login component or something. All right, so let's look at full mean Bicycle Marketplace. All right, so if they're on this page, it looks like that's the route route. So let's load 2 components when we hit our route route. Can we do that? No, unless we have one component that nests
Well, you
to
can
others.
nest it and then have the app router link
Yeah,
in there.
that is true. All right, so when we hit our route route, we'll just show you, you know, bike of the day or something, and these 2. All right, so to do that, let's just have this. Do we need this path match even? I think we want, yeah. All right, so this path match, why don't we just say, we don't want you to redirect. We want you to load a component when we hit our route. That's what this is, this here. When we hit route, we want you to load a component called, I guess, login. We can load login. Honestly, we don't need 2 separate components for login and register. Maybe we'll just do everything in one. That'll probably be better. Let's just load our register component, for example. So let's go ahead and import that in the routing file, and then have this happen. Register component is, where's that from? App routing should be /.
Register.
Yeah, there's that. Okay, so that's imported, and then we'll just load this. There's that. So when you hit the route, we're going to load the register component. So let's just test that right away and see if it works. So it should just say register works when we go press refresh. Once we have a router outlet. So let's add a router outlet over here in the root component, right? So now this is where you want this, router-outlet. Yeah. Right, so that's all we needed. Now it should work. So root route, it's loading our register component. That's great. All right, so I think what we'll do is just that. Inside of register, we're going to just have 2 forms, one for register, one for login. And then we'll just ditch this login component. So let's get rid of that. And then it's going to yell at us over here because I have login component. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist here either. Okay. Now we can start with this register component HTML. All right, so let's start working with a form that looks like this, login. All right, let's put login on the left. All right, so let's make a form. And when you submit this form, then yeah, let's just call it login. It makes sense. So the login function will be in here, and then you'll call from your service in that function, that login function, the user service login. Right, so there's that, and then we can have our ng model banana box stuff. Right, so when you do this, we're going to say text. The name is going to be probably, we're going to need 2 models. This is going to be weird. All right, we're going to need 2. We're going to need one for the person who's logging in on this register component and the person who's registering. We're going to need 2 because we don't want these 2 to conflict when you 2-way bind stuff. So you'll see how that works. Actually, I'll show you that it's going to break if I do only 1. So we could call this like private user. Why don't we call this like registrar or something? So we know what this is, and then we can call another one logged in user or something.
Login user.
Let's call it logger. That'll work. We need 2 of these because we're going to need to 2-way bind these. So in the constructor for this register component, let's define what these are. So registrar equals a JSON object. And we know we need all 5 of those attributes. It's like first, last, email, password, and then confirmation. So let's do this. First, last, email, password, and confirm. right? So there's all that junk, right?
Yes.
So that's for when you register. That's great. Now we need one for when you log in. We call that logger. You can, I don't know what to call these. You can call them whatever you want. I just didn't want these to conflict. If I called one user, then that would just be confusing. Yeah, so just email and then just password. Right? So we want to be able to bind these separately because otherwise it would just overwrite stuff from one in the other. Right, so that'll work. In fact, kind of want to do something to save time so we don't repeat this again later. We're going to have to repeat this again later, and I don't want to. I'm going to make a function for that. I'm going to just grab what we just did, throw it in our own function called initialize. Now, right here, I'm going to just call it this.init. So all I did was take this stuff and put it in a different function. All right, and now, when somebody registers or logs in, we can reset these fields automatically. We can just clear them out just by calling init. So it saves us from having to do this twice. That's all it does. All right, so now let's actually create the login function over here. So this is what happens when somebody clicks the button on the form, right? So that's what's happening here, right? And we call this one logger. So over here, this is going to be logger.name email, logger.email, and then the same thing down here, but password. So I'll make a p tag here, and this will be email. And then we need our banana in a box, right? So can't forget that. So this is ng model equals logger.email. All right, and then I'm gonna just copy the whole thing because that's annoying to type. And this will be password. And then we'll change this to password and ng model to password. Right, so login form is done. We have finished that. Yeah, now all we have to do is hook this function up to say, hey, go talk to the service that we just created for users. Right, so that should be all we need, I believe, in this form. So let's come back over here, and when you log in, now we're going to say, well, we need that service somewhere, that user service. So we're going to import it here. Right, so we're going to say private US, we can call it that, user service. Yeah, so now we can import our service. Lots and lots of imports. All right.
Lots going on.
Yeah, there is. All right, so user service, that is where? That is dot slash, I think. Dot slash user dot service, I think. All right, user service is imported. Now we can go down to login and say, great, somebody logged in, so this must have stuff in it, this logger variable. Great, so now we can say this.userService login. That's why we created this one. And this takes the user, so this logger, right, we're going to send it this.logger, and then also a callback, right? So what should we do when we get this person back? We can take them somewhere, we can redirect them, right, if we know that there's no errors. So here's the benefit of, you know, on our backend when we had the error JSON object and the messages error object, well, now we can check for those. So we can be like, if we even have a key that's called errors, if we have that key, then something went wrong. If we don't have that key in this else, now we can just be like, cool, you must be legit, so we're going to redirect you. We're going to take you to a different Angular route, like our dashboard, right? So that's the cool part about that. So if we have this key data.errors, we manually created that on the back end, so if it ever shows up in Angular, we know there's an error because we made that manually. Or you can have this. If we have errors or messages, because we also called it messages on our back end, so if we have either of these things, something terrible must have happened. So we'll either display it or redirect you. Right? If none of that happened, in the case of this else, we can redirect this person to a different route. So has anyone seen this yet? I don't know if I've shown you this. It's not activated route, but it's router like this. Basically what it lets you do is redirect people in Angular to a different route, and that's it.
So you can do the navigate?
Yeah, you can be like this.router.navigate and then force them to go to a different route that you created on the front end. So we can take them to like our dashboard. I forget where this is. Imports. Import router from somewhere at Angular/router. All right, so now that we have our service and this router thing, once we log in, we're saying, cool, if there's no problems with you logging in, then what we're going to do is in this else, we're going to say, that's great, but with this router, we're going to tell you that you can navigate to a different route. So this is just a redirect. That's all this is. It's a redirect to say, go talk to some other route in our app routing module. So it's going to look over here for the thing you put inside of this array. And it's in an array for some reason. It's weird. But I think there's also a navigate by URL if you want to just use a string. It's a lot easier. Yeah. Now you can just put in like slash some other route name that you have. So we might call this like slash dashboard when you're actually logged in. But let's check the platform just to see what they're doing here. So they called it slash browse. So this looks like it's our root page. Let's just go redirect them to slash browse. But listings shows your own listings. That's just weird. That's fine. All right, so we'll just say we're going to take you to browse if you logged in successfully. That'll be our root page, for example. If there's errors, I don't know what we'll do yet with that, but we'll just leave it. All right, so our login should be good. Now we have to figure out a way to do register. All right, so let's do that here. And guess what? It's the same thing. So we're going to just put this.userservice.register. But this time we're going to give it register. Registrar.
Which is the person who registers.
Correct. What better naming convention? All right, so we're going to get some data back, right? When they register. It's the exact same kind of style, all right? This looks identical to this. It's just different naming, right? So we're calling register in one case and login in the other. So we're sending this registrar, the person who's registering, and then here's the data we get back. And we're going to do the exact same check. If they have errors, in fact, I'm going to just copy this. There's no point in writing it again. So if you registered successfully, we might as well also take you to browse, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, good user experience.
Yeah, so now we can log in and register, hopefully successfully. We should be able to get some sort of notification in Angular now if we try to log in and register. The only thing is I don't think we created on the page a way to register. So let's do that here. I'm going to just copy this form, and now I'll just kind of tell this one to call register, right? So that's going to call register right here now. It's going to run that. So this takes 3 more inputs, like first name, last name, email, password, and confirm. So let's just grab one of these. We'll just say first, and this will be last. Right, and then email, password, and finally confirm. All right, so this will be confirm. All right, login and register should be fine. And again, this is literally why login and registration is not required on the exam anymore, because we've been doing this for like 2 hours, and we don't even have a login registration yet. So that's why this isn't required anymore. In fact, there's a lot more to do for this, because we have to figure out how to keep this person logged in, because if I ever refresh my page, it's going to kick me out in Angular. So you have to use cookies, which they don't tell you about, to figure that out. So that's why it's not a thing anymore. But we'll try to do that because I kind of want to show you that. And I also want to look at the time. What time are we at? Almost another hour. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've got this register component. And now let's just refresh our page and make sure there's no problems with binding and all that stuff. Right, so we need a way to send this stuff, so let's add some buttons on these. So this should be our login form right here, and we'll just make that way more apparent. Oops.
Separate them by an H1.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make this an H1. This will just say login here. And then this one will be for register. And if you want to do CSS and stuff, go for it, but there's not a lot of time to do that on the exam, so I would suggest just make it work. Right, so login and register. Are you giving someone the stink eye there?
Oh no, not at all.
All right, so let's make these have submit buttons. That's great. We'll call this values register. And this one will be, this will be login register. This isn't the most attractive page you've ever seen? What do you mean?
I've seen worse.
Bootstrap.
There's a thing
This is-
in the
oh, yeah.
Bootstrap.
All right, so
Yeah.
hopefully, why don't we just go ahead and, before I click login and register, because it's not going to do anything, it's going to work, but we're not going to log anything, so we have no clue what happened. So what we're going to do is this. I'm going to just go ahead and say, when you log in, no matter what happens, log us some sort of data. Let us know what the heck's going on. So we're going to log data when you log in. I'm going to make that apparent, so let's do login, colon, do that there. And the same for register. When we click that, we want to know what's happening. All right, so we'll just kind of log this stuff. All right, refresh this, and I'm going to just click login. So it says we got a forbidden. This is actually a good thing. It's trying to post, and it's like, hey, you gave us invalid data, so we're not going to let you post. So you can even see that it gave us a 403, right? It's giving us literally an error here because we made that error on the back end, because we gave it invalid information.
Does it show us a message?
It should. No user with this email was found.
Alright.
So you can actually rip that out and show it here on the page, which is the whole point of making this custom error field we made. Right? So we have errors in message. We made these on the back end. See, this is a custom one. That's why this errors is null. This doesn't exist. It's not like a Mongo thing. We made this custom one.
Is that where you do like an ng if error,
Mhm.
then ng for error and errors?
Totally. Exactly. That's when you want to like flash these. So you can, we should figure out how to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and now actually try to see what happens when you click register. So I'll clear this and then click register. And it should do the same exact thing, except it said failed to save user, and here's all the issues we have. So this should be all of our front-end validations or back-end validations that we've created. So first is required, last is required, and all that. Right, so this one is reaching a min-length error. So you can see that that's all our back-end errors. Right, so they failed to put that stuff in, and you can just flash it here. We'll do that in a sec, but first let's make sure we can register, and we do get something back. All right, so does anyone want to volunteer to be our first?
Volunteer. CTO.
All right, we can have Cameron on here. Let's see, Cameron Bloom. Cameron at Gmail.
Sure.
AOL.
AOL. I'm gonna forget.
It's actually Cam the Beach Bum at AOL.
Test 1 2 3 4. I forgot to make these passwords, but that's fine.
It's okay. You guys can know my password. That's you.
We actually never tested to see if these should match on our back end, and also I want to show you guys front end validations in a second too. All right, so actually, what happened? Something bad happened. What have we broken here? Failed to save user. What are our errors?
User validated.
First is required. It's shorter than the minimum length. Cameron's longer than 2.
Yeah, but it's saying the minimum allowed length is 8.
Password.
Why?
What about your
1
password?
2 3 4.
I think it's something
Password's
about the
8.
password. So just do 5, yeah.
All right, well, let's see.
Just,
I saw red. Well, that's a bummer. Let's clear the console. What is the actual error?
I mean, it was saying that my first name was shorter than Ether,
I know, I saw that.
which it is.
Path is first is required, last is required. It shouldn't be flagging all of these. Confirm is shorter than the minimum allowed length. Yeah, like what do you do in this case? There's a lot of things that can just go wrong.
Just remove
Well,
login and registration.
the fact that
Yeah, you remove it from the exam and then you call it a day.
I don't know that it's hitting the information properly because we're getting all these errors.
Yeah, it's like not Let's see what the backend has to say about this. Nothing. Nothing.
It likes it.
It's returning our errors successfully. So what the heck? Alright, let's just make these longer.
It doesn't like me, I get it.
Alright, so it's definitely not that. It's like not even getting any of this data. How about this? Let's go all the way to our backend. Controllers, user controller. We need to figure out why this is not doing
We were getting it
anything.
to do it before we started Angular.
Yeah, it worked in
So
Postman
I
for
think it
sure.
may be actual services rather than
Could be.
at the front end rather than back end.
Yeah, maybe we're sending it to the wrong place. That's definitely possible. So let's make sure that register is, yeah, that's a good point, is actually going to the right place. User service register. API users register. Didn't we call it that? Let's take a look here. API users register. It's going to the right place. It's calling the right function. Alright, so the only other thing to really check is like, well, what's happening in this case when we call it over here in the backend. So this is why you want to make sure like routing and in all of your backend stuff is perfect before you move to Angular, because I'm pretty sure we did though. We definitely did, but I don't know what's happening here.
Postman is not going to actually test that.
Yeah. Let's do this. It's I think it's getting past this find one.
Because it would, even the Postman, give us errors if we do.
Yeah. It's breaking right here. It's breaking right here, and I don't know why. It's in our, maybe it's in our model. These just aren't flashing. Min length. First and last are 2. These two are 8. Everything is in there. Why is this happening? Let's try this again. Forbidden. That's so weird. It's not even like seeing that we're sending it data. Maybe bcrypt is just, or body parser's not doing something. Errors. Yeah, I don't think it's not picking up on any of this. Why? Why don't we do this? Let's just log some stuff on the back end. Right before this is saving, right before it tries to save, let's just log the entire user and see what is actually in there. That might help. So we should see that over here when we make a request on Angular, or in Angular. So hit register.
See if it's actually anyway there.
Yeah, look at this. It's all blank. It's giving us this. It's hashing our password, and then it's like nulling out first, last, and email. Why is it nulling all this? Okay, so we did break something over here.
It's the form passing the user dot.
Yeah, maybe we named our attributes incorrectly via Angular. That's possible. So we named it first, last, email, and password. Did we not do that in Angular? First, last, and email. First, last, email, password, confirm. It's literally identical.
Check the HTML one more
Why is
time.
that happening? HTML? We
On
can
the,
check.
Register.
First, last, email, password. Oh, this is wrong. Look at this. Yeah, this is all wrong. All this needs to be registrar.
Yes.
Oh my god. Registrar. There we go.
Bam. 'Cause Postman, everything was good.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. You were transmitting data, but you weren't transmitting data.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also, you could have just done this. We would have found that error way sooner if you would do this, if we would have done this. Registrar. God, that's a weird word. And then also do the same for logger JSON. And we would have seen both of them changing at the same time and been like, oh, we messed that up. That would have been way more obvious.
Yeah,
But now you'll see these will change independently.
having to save
Yeah.
mistakes on the video are helpful because then when we run into them later, it's like a thing where
Yeah. Yeah, so these would have been, like, as I would have typed into here, this email would have been changing and filling this out here. It would be weird. That's what was happening, but we couldn't tell because we didn't do this. All right, so let's see if it works. Refresh. Let's create Cameron again. Cameron Bloom. Cameron at Gmail. All right, back end. Don't fail us now.
Fine.
Oh, gosh, that's-
Hotmail.
I still use that. I still have a Hotmail.
People still use Hotmail.
Well, something broke, but we actually made it work. All right, so it can't find our browse URL. That's fine. That's fine. We got Cameron back here. He's with us.
Yeah.
He exists.
Just don't know where to go.
Yeah, we just don't know where to redirect to. We should be redirecting because it was successful, but that's fine. We can fix that.
you were registered, you don't have class. We don't have a place that you can shoot.
Exactly.
Horrible user experience.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that works. But here's the problem with login registration in Angular. Now we have to figure out a way to keep you in session so that when I do redirect you in Angular, you don't get kicked out because we don't have that. So in every one of our components now, we have to see, hey, are you logged in? Do we have this cookie? And all this stuff. So that's kind of why I didn't want to do login registration. But that's fine. Actually, wait. No, that might be a lie. Because technically you're in session on our back end. We just don't know about it on the front end. So we might be okay with that. All right, so let's go assume that this login works. Actually, let's not assume. Let's try this. Let's clear this. So it was Cameron at Gmail. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, and then login. So we got him back. That's awesome. Login registration pretty much works. We just need a way to redirect once we get this data. Right, so that's why we checked for it. If I put in some jargon here and log in, it should break. So now it actually is breaking. It's giving us a good error, right? Invalid credentials. So then you can just show that on the page. So we can actually figure out how to do that. Let's see if we can do this. This might be weird. So let's make a div. What I'm going to do is right above this login, I'm going to make a div, and we're going to check to see if we have that errors keyword on our logger object. Can we do that here? Wait a sec. Oh, you know what we can do? This is going to be weird, but here's what we can do. We can make a new variable on this page that stores just errors, and that's it. And if there's ever anything in that, then we can flash it on the page. Right? So what I'm going to do is this. Here's how you can flash errors really easily. Private errors, make a variable. And then somewhere we're going to have to make this an array. So we'll just say this.errors is an array. Now we can say if we have errors, then we want to say this.errors, the thing we just created, is equal to data.messages. Because these are the ones that we want to show them that are actually human understandable in this case. And then in this case, when you try to register, if there's errors when you register, most of the time we're going to want the data.errors. These are the ones that come from Mongo that say, hey, your length is incorrect. So we'll do the same in this case. This.errors equals data.errors. Alright, so now get rid of these logs because we know it works. And then we'll just kind of output this on the page because we have this variable. So now over here we can just do, a div and have an ng for and loop all those errors. So we can just say let error of errors. So this is what we created, looping through those, and then you can just make like an h1 or something. And then we'll just put error here just to see if it works. So let's see if that works. Click login. Don't think so. Did not work. Yeah, that should be showing. Yeah, that should be showing an error. Why is it not doing that? Let error of errors. We just did that over here. Let's just console log the word errors if there are errors. How about that?
This is
Yeah, it didn't even log it. But why?
it's not. Well, it's passing the info, but it's not passing
Users login.
data.
What if we did console.log data?
Yeah, just to see what exactly.
Yeah, it's like not doing anything.
Not even getting that.
That's super weird. We're gonna console log hello with a question mark. Yeah, so we're not getting that here. All right, so I think I might have a solution for this. So you might not want to use res.status because let's check our user controller to log in. Let's just get rid of one of these when you log in. Example, this here. We keep getting, I think, that error. Let's just not use status. Maybe that's the problem. I feel like it is. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so don't use res.status. Apparently it's bad. Because now we can at least get something out of this.
Well, can you log the data? See exactly.
Yeah, let's
Well,
log
by that
data.
point it should be working.
Yeah, it should.
Just in case.
Did you miss one at the bottom? Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, it's trying to run this. Alright, so let's put nothing in this login. It's supposed to be an error here. So it's logging hello. What is this whole red? It's trying to load browse. It shouldn't be though.
You're allowed in session. Your ID in seconds.
Oh yeah, it could be that. Let's console log data for a second. Because now we're actually getting to this point. Alright, what are we getting here? Oh, okay, so we're getting message. It's message, not messages. That's why it's not doing anything. So if data.errors or data.message, then we'll do this. Now it'll finally show up, I think, on the page. One letter S can break a lot of things. Alright, so now let's click login. Nothing?
No user.
Nothing. No user with this email was found. Only arrays and iterables are allowed. What? It is an iterable. Okay, what about this? This.errors.push data.message. Is that going to work? I think this will work. It's because it was trying to like assign that errors array to a string, and we couldn't iterate a string apparently. So let's try this. Data.message. We just want to flash these errors. That's pretty much it. There we go.
Oh.
Finally. Now it's just going to append infinitely though. So that's I'm okay with it, but it's kind of annoying. That's pretty irritating. But at least it does something. It lets us know what's happening. Let's try this. So if I click register, why did that one not work?
It's the 403 status. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's the status thing on our back end. This user controller register. Yeah, let's get rid of these 404 status things. This is just not... Those are not helping. Those made things a lot harder. Alright, so that's gone. Sweet. Alright, now something different should happen. At the very least. Failed to save user. Good. Okay, login and registration. Alright, we're getting places. Failed to save user when you try to log in or register. So at least it flashes the errors coming from the back end now. That's all that we wanted to do. All right, so now we can actually be stored in session when we log in to register. But I think, what time are we at? Let's take an intermission. Let's do like a 5-minute break and then come back.